Good day, everybody. So, um, so yeah. So I just ran into this guy named Byron, and Byron's been living across the street from my house for about 3.5 weeks now, and the first day he moved here, he was, new. So I don't really know what he was going through, or um, but our first encounter wasn't exactly perfect, and it was nothing that either end did. It was just that we didn't really connect. There wasn't really time because there was, like 12, 15 other people around. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, just didn't happen with me and him. I mean, some people you really, really connect with, and other people you don't, right? So, saw him a couple more times than that because, he was living at the ashram across the street. An ashram is kind of like a place where really spiritual people come to visit, and some people live there and stuff like that. And it's like a spiritual place. And yeah, so I ran into him a couple more times because I'm always over there, working over there, and hanging out with people over there. And just ran into him a couple times, here and there. 30 seconds here, a minute there, that kind of thing. And I was just over across the street to go play the guitar because I had some free time this morning. I didn't have to work or do anything like that. And I ran into him, and it was just me and him for the first time ever. Like, it was just, I sat down at the table, and I said something pretty nice, and he came over and he joined me, and we sat there for like 40 minutes, and we just connected. And turns out we have a lot in common, and we get along really, really well. And he's only going to be here for another day. So I guess what, I think we should mention is, that it takes a while to get to know somebody, and you shouldn't just like label people off the bat. And and you should give people a chance. Which I think is really important. And one of the biggest things in my life, I think, is not expecting people to be a certain way for you. To pretty much see, people, everyone really, people are as they are. They're on different paths, and sometimes they're moving faster or slower than you, whatever the case may be. But to really give people a chance, and not label or judge them, I mean, and not expect people to be a certain way. Because once you want people to be a certain way, or once you expect people to be a certain way, um, you lose compassion for them, you know. So um, and a lot of that has to deal with acceptance, you know, and just accept things as they are. Um, you know, especially if you don't have control over something. You know, if you're in an abusive relationship, or if you're around negative people, or people are abusing you, you don't have to, you know, accept that. You know, you could choose to change or walk away, or move on in your life. You don't have to be around abusive people or negative people. But so don't accept that kind of life, you know. But surrendering and accepting the things that you cannot change and the things around you um, is extremely important. Because you're going to come into hard times and roadblocks, and when you surrender and you accept what is, and you accept the present moment, things become much easier in your life and simpler in your life. And the mind slows down once you don't expect life to work for you, or once you don't expect life to be a certain way for you. You know, I mean, if you think that life is supposed to make you joyful, or life is supposed to make you happy, and if it doesn't go your way that day, you immediately become frustrated, or upset, or annoyed, or angry. You know, that's the minute you lose, and the minute you become unhappy. But by accepting what is, and say this moment is the way it is, everything is the way it is, people around me are the way they are, that acceptance leads to an enormous peace within you, and happiness within you, and it also makes you love others and have compassion for others. So sometimes you just have to give up control. For some people, that might be very hard to do. You know, I hate to get into studies and psychology sometimes, but sometimes they correlate so much with what we're talking about. And people that usually are raised in dysfunctional homes or abusive homes, especially when their parents are mentally ill, or bipolar, or suffer from severe depression, or those type of things, or abuse or trauma, or when their parents fight with each other, or if you have a parent, a mother or father that's very angry or abusive towards you, or your siblings, or anybody in the house. Later on in life, you try to control as many things as possible. And even at the time when you're a child, you try to control as much as possible, because things are so chaotic and crazy around you and dysfunctional around you that the only way to stabilize that instability or that chaotic environment is to try to control things or try to be a certain way. Some of us become very funny or very entertaining because we try to lighten up the home, because the home is so heavy and it's so aggressive that we think, and so unhappy that we think that, hey, if I become funny, maybe this environment, this home will become more happy and okay. Maybe I can change that. Maybe I could control that and make it okay, not just for me inside and for me to feel okay, but for everybody to be okay. Maybe I could give them that happiness. That's just one way. It's a survival mode. It's a mechanism where by creating that character, you try to control the environment, the unstable or unfriendly environment at home. And as you age, that control could lead into other things. It could lead into trying to control whatever environment you're in, or even trying to control people or situations or places. So many people that come from dysfunctional homes or scary homes or abusive homes or traumatic homes, we find it very hard to accept what is and give up control, because our whole childhood was about trying to change our environment and trying to gain control so everybody would be happy and we would be happy and everything would be peaceful and okay. So accepting what is, like even today, I wanted to do this podcast much earlier. I wanted to do it this morning. And usually when I do my podcast around 7:45, 8 in the morning, the lawn mowing crew showed up next door. And I usually keep the window a little bit open for my podcast because I like to hear the birds. Maybe you could hear the birds too, I'm not sure. But the lawnmowers and the weed whackers were out. I was like, all right, I'll just wait 45 minutes. And then they finally left. And I was like, cool. All right, now I can start my podcast. So I started putting my food away. And by then it was like 8:35. And as I'm putting my food away downstairs in the refrigerator, the lawn service crew from my house shows up. And they start weed whacking and they start mowing the lawn. So first it was the next door neighbors from like 7:45 to 8:30, and then mine started from like 8:35 to like 9:20. And I always leave at like 9 o'clock, just to either go to work, go to the store, go wherever. And I was like, I can't stay at home. It's like 9:10. I can't do this. I gotta get out of here. Because I can't stay inside. I'm very much so an outdoors person. So it's just like I surrender. I'm not going to do the podcast this morning. and I accepted the situation, and I actually thought it was pretty funny. Um, but that's sometimes you just have to surrender like that. You can't accept life. You can't expect life to work out for you or make you happy because bad things happen sometimes, complicated things happen sometimes, challenges happen sometimes, and you just have to see them as challenges. And as the more you accept them, the more and more you kind of find it funny because you're just like, this is just not working. It's just not working. It was supposed to happen, but it's just not working. So you accept it and then you just laugh about it because you're just like, it is what it is, you know? Uh, and interestingly enough, I went outside and I ran into my buddy Sebi, and me and Sebi talked for half an hour, and I had a great time with Sebi. And then I went across the street and I ran into Byron, and I talked with Byron for like 45 minutes, and I connected with him for the first time. But if I was inside doing the podcast, I wouldn't have probably run into Sebi. I probably wouldn't have run into Byron. And those are two connections I had with two different people that made me extremely happy this morning. So sometimes if things don't work out for you, there might be a reason for that. I know, like, the Catholic faith and the Christian faith usually always say everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. You probably heard that from your grandmother, or your mother, or your father, or your grandfather, or uncle, or aunt, or something. Um, uh, and I don't really say that. I'm not like, oh, everything happens for a reason. But in a weird way, everything kind of works out. Strangely enough, as long as you accept what is. If you fight against what is, you're like, this is frustrating me. Why are they mowing the lawn today? Then you're not going to be in alignment with life or Earth or the creation, and you're fighting against it, and you're not accepting it. And when you don't accept and surrender and allow, usually things might not work out for you. You'll become more angry, you'll become more frustrated, you become more negative, and people will pick that up, and people will notice that about you, and they'll start to distance themselves from you. It's extremely important to accept and surrender to what is, and appreciate life, whatever it throws at you, even if you think that they're challenges, to appreciate those challenges, to appreciate everything, and knowing that you're gonna die, and to appreciate everything while it's still in front of you. Appreciate everything while it's still in front of you, because you're gonna die one day. So you should appreciate everything. The challenges in life, the people in life, the people around you, the birds, the trees, everything. Acceptance. All right, guys, peace. Have a good day. Hiya.